All right, so here's what's going on this week. First of all, Billy Tucci had a very interesting week. POPxp, he and Nile, who are the finest broadcasters in comics, had a guest on. They had Rob Liefeld.
Yes.
Extraordinary. How did that go? How was the Rob Liefeld show?
It went great. And you didn't have to apologize for e-fapping my stream. You'll just make it up when we close out this campaign. I'll make you make it up to me.
Hey, no problem ever.
No, it was great. It was great. Yeah, we got some heat from people, and that because Rob, and you saw I in the chat I had asked if Rob would like to have not in the chat, in our room, like, hey, Rob, would you like maybe, John Malin and Dan Fraga jump on, maybe Marat Michaels come in to say hello, because we have fun on that show, and he was like, he's just gotten so much shit. I think he's like, please, Billy, no guests, no comments, no surprise questions. I'll just leave, and I understand. It's about our guest, so
actually, hindsight, there was no room for another guest, man. Rob is quite entertaining.
He was great. And you talk about passion, though, and
funny.
Yeah, you talk about passion and just the way you feel, just him talking and and again and getting shit from people and stuff like that. But I'm like, trust me, I'm sure Rob knows on ComicsGate, and he still came on the show, as a lot of people do. And that's the point, is that it's good because you do see this turning, especially what happened to Glenn O'Leary. We talked about that. He also didn't want to mention any other creators' names because we were talking about a few that went after Glenn and some of them that went after Mark Miller, some other creators and stuff. But
well, he was fresh off of this scandal here, and was still good enough to come onto your show. So, I'm not crazy about the idea of disabling the chat. The chat, obviously, you can say I don't want to be on a panel with somebody else. Disabling the chat should be able to comment. Nobody has to listen or respond. I don't care what these people. 970 people right now, unless they're sending me super chats calling me fat, I don't listen to them. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is that you had some people, and I was thinking about this, that they were like complaining about that. They wanted the chats open. I got a lot of messages, or they were tagging me on Twitter and stuff. And it's like, well, you guys are bitching about SJWs inserting themselves into the comics. Now, it's almost like you guys are doing the same thing with this. It isn't about you. It's about Rob. It was about Rob talking about me, with a conversation with Rob and Niall about what he loves, how he feels about the industry, how he feels about, we talked about the Kirby Stan Lee debate, and it was a fantastic. It was a great interview, as Art said. I didn't really have to say much. He just kept going, and he was great. And I've always liked Rob. Him and his wife, great people. He knows what's going on in comics. He knows everything. He watches everything. He knows everything. So take the win, guys. We had a great week last week with this canceled pig stuff. That the great Glenn O'Leary set off, and then you jumped on it, Ethan. Of course, Mark Miller did, and all of us coming behind him. And then I was thinking about these so-called pros that were attacking Glenn, and they call them pros, but I'm like, how many of them are actually working in comics now, actually making a living making comics? I know some of them teach, but I don't know too many of them that were actually going after Glenn. Are pros, the ones that support him. We're all pros, the ones supporting him. But think about that. The big mouths, are they actually making a living in comics now?
Well, I mean,
like
some of them are.
ex-pros.
It's always the same guys. It's never like, whoa, out of the blue, here comes like John Byrne. It's never anybody like that. It's always like, oh, it's Jamal Igle, it's Kwanzaa, it's Mark Waid, it's the same crew every single time. And then, that's why cancel pigs really cut them to the core. Because again, if you aren't a cancel pig, you don't really care about the term cancel pigs, but they reacted to it like garlic to a vampire. They really kind of were like, oh my God, they're calling us cancel pigs.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great week. I think these people all were saying funny things like, this was a really stressful week for us this week. It was terrible.
Yeah. Oh, take the win. Like I said, what a great week it was.
It was a great week for us, but not for them. They
Nope.
just were completely stressed out last week. The radical left within comics, mostly because they really kind of exposed themselves. When Glenn O'Leary came out and just delivered his very simple message of, if you're gonna write a story about Tony Stark, then I want to see Tony Stark. Nobody cares about your life. Nobody cares about you. Just give me good stories.
Nobody cares about your life.
Nobody cares about your life.
Comics, it's a comic.
I gotta get the Boston accent down, man. They're the best people in the world. I made a video today. Shout out to anyone from Boston or just Massachusetts in general in the chat. We love you. But when he came out with that very simple message, the entire left, Aaron, you wouldn't believe this. The entire left comes out. The entire left comes out, and they first of all they feel the need to defend themselves. Like if somebody's saying these comics, they're boring.
Comics.
Comics.
You got a box of comics, and they're wicked good.
All right. If somebody were to say that, like you just go, well, they just mean the other guy's comics. They couldn't mean Cyberfrog. Right. They certainly don't mean, Wraith of God. They mean these other comics.
Of course.
But these guys reacted.
It's when they take it personally, you hit them.
Yeah, the truth hurts.
They all know.
And that's why they react like that.
They all know that they're screwing comics up. I guess they're doing it on purpose at this point, but they don't want to admit it. So someone comes out and labels them, then of course they're going to defend themselves. And they know what they're doing. And so when people make even generalized comments about, self-insertion or all this other kind of stuff, they know that they're talking about them because they know they're doing it. So,
and you know what's weird about them is they identify with like the most horrible things. I remember when Donald Trump won the presidency some years ago, and I tweeted out, I said, the best part about Donald Trump winning is watching all the precious snowflakes melt. And I thought it was funny, and I didn't think it was political. I just thought it was funny. And you would be surprised at how many people were like, that is insensitive, blah, blah, blah. They were crucifying me over it. And then I was just like, what? Are you a precious snowflake? Like, who would identify like that? You know what I mean? Like, who would defend something? Like, what if somebody just goes, you know what? You're the biggest asshole. It's like, why would you say I'm an asshole?
They just feel so very strongly.
Well, when we're in an industry, in a field where our work is constantly under criticism. So, I mean, you can't be sensitive. You can't,
right.
And then for them to just be so sensitive, like, why are you working in this industry?
How'd you get this far? Yeah. Sensitive.
Yeah.
Did you guys read Mike's not little article? What would you call it? An essay, Mike, that you just published recently on
Substack?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an essay on a little bit about comics history that most people don't know, about the ongoing struggle for the control of the soul of comics, us up to the present when the soul has been lost to the left and they're dying because they have no soul. It's dying. That's why we're thriving.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like that, people talk about how the left captures and kills institutions, skins them, and dances around wearing their skin suit.
That's exactly right.
You see, there's a sense. You go, no, the comics are there. They're right there. You can see them, but you don't feel them anymore because they just aren't being manufactured, made in a creatively permissive way by people who actually care about them. That's over with right now. I wish we could bring that back. Do you remember how great comics were?
Yeah.
How exciting it was.
I think we
80s and early 90s. Man.
Yeah, even in the 2000s, but I mean, as a reader, for me, in the late 70s all the way through the late 90s, comics were just, they were being spearheaded by people who had a plan and took them seriously. Jim Shooter just understood the value of story and how stories are what really makes money. I mean, you can have a bunch of variant covers. So we all do variant covers. You can do that if you want to, and there's going to be a little money there. But that's not what makes money. What drives, cash into comics is story. And Jim Shooter, he created this whole world where, it was real. Marvel Comics was all happening simultaneously. Every book that was on the stand unless it was a retro book from the past or something like that, a period piece. All these books were happening simultaneously, so that you knew as a reader, as a fan, it's tremendously exciting. Now's my time to get a glimpse into what's going on in New York City and Marvel Universe. I'm going to read New Mutants. That's going to connect to what's going on in X-Men, which is going to connect probably to maybe what's happening in the Avengers. Story, that's what it was. It was this connected universe that is lost now. There's no way to do that.
They crave story. It's story that rules entertainment.
And the Jim Shooter that I was introduced.
We've all bought multiple comics because we love the art. We fell in love with the art. It's just amazing. But you go through it and you think, gee, I wish the story was as good as the art.
Well, in the 90s,
Marvel and DC here
is when I was introduced to Jim.
You can't say that now. Their art sucks now.
And Jim Shooter was leading the way at Valiant. I mean, they had incredible stories, man. Harbinger, they had just a lot of different things that I really loved, and it was really good story. The 90s were new guys coming out. They were entrepreneurs making business, own business, like Todd McFarlane. Everybody had Image doing their own thing, taking ownership of their own IPs, and it was a wonderful time. I loved it, comics in the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s was great. People were enthusiastic about, you know what the 90s were to me? It was a time when a whole lot of new ideas, new characters were being created, and people were curious about them. There was this invitation to come on board and create. And that's the one thing that I will say, ComicsGate, people say, is ComicsGate like a reflection of the 90s? And I would say, in that sense, yes. There are so many new ideas being generated by passionate creators who are excited about the idea of telling stories, and by the way, owning the means of labor, the means of production. Mike, do we own the means of production, or is that the printers? It's hard to say, right?
No, it's
us.
We own the material. We own the content. We
are the means of production in the sense that we're the ones generating the stories. It's just okay. I mean, otherwise I'll go buy a fucking printer, Mike.
Yeah.
If it's to push back against communism, we got to do what we got to do.
Well, the printers, we pay them to do a service for us. So essentially, they're our employees. So
there you go.
Well, I know some great printers.
What do you mean, Ethan Van Pinko? No, the opposite.
Oh,
no, the opposite. See, if I were a communist, I would want the means of production to be owned by a centralized government. Something like, the equivalent of Marvel Comics or Disney. No, I'm saying we, the people, need to own the means of production. We need to own and enjoy the results of our labor, the fruits of our labor. Yeah. All right, so we got Rob Liefeld, who came out in the midst of all this. This is a struggle where Mark Miller, where Glenn O'Leary came out and he just kind of said, oh boy, these stories are not so good anymore. And you got these people who come out, the radical left, we call them SJWs, other people call them woke shitheads. They came out and basically just took this guy apart for his physical appearance. Yeah. They said, oh, look at him, he smells bad, look how fat he is, and all these things. And it was disgusting and despicable, and it was a true mask-off moment for the left, because the one thing that these people kind of comfort themselves with is the idea that they're real superheroes. We've read comics. We know what a hero is. A hero is somebody that artificially creates quotas that allow an equal amount of women into an industry, even though they're not qualified, but just based on their gender. That's what a hero is. Haven't you read any comics?
It's DEI you're describing.
Oh, what's that?
Diversity, equity, and
inclusion.
Inclusion.
Yeah. It's taken over all our institutions, and now it's on the way out.
Well, but I have to say this. I mean, this always has to be said. There was never any of this problem before. I mean, women were never, ostracized from the industry. They were always welcome. The only thing is a lot of women don't want to work in comic books, especially, superhero comics, Marvel and DC. Women were always welcome in the industry. There were a lot of powerful women in the industry. So none of that stuff was true to begin with.
There's something we're not allowed to say, but it's true. And it's that men respond to visual stimuli at a much higher level than women do. And that's why man's participation in comic is so much higher.
Exactly.
Yes, that is true. By the way, somebody points out a Critical Drinker had a great line today. I like this. He said the woke consider their identities as heroic rather than their actions. That's
Right.
Excellent.
Ooh,
Yeah.
pretty incisive.
It
all right.
violates show don't tell rule.
Yeah, shout out to him for that. That's pretty great. So basically, these people came out and attacked Glenn O'Leary's physical appearance, which is not heroic. I'm sorry, that is what bullies do. He's a very handsome man, and plus, he's a lot of fun when you go to a comic shop to talk to him. That's the experience that's missing from comics right now, where you got a nerd who clearly has read every single comic book that's come through his store, and he wants to tell you what's good and what sucks. That fucking blows, that comic. Billy, how would a Bostonian say describe comics that suck? Like, you go in there.
It's gonna tell you that it's just a wicked good book and it fucking sucks. Nobody wants to fucking hear about your life. Nobody fucking cares. Nobody fucking cares. And it's go park your car in the fucking yard.
I like Wicked Awesome. That's great.
There's some wicked good comics. I like Ethan Van Sciver when him and Jeff Johns were doing fucking Greenland. That was fucking great.
Yeah. Fucking sacks. There we go. That's how to pronounce it if you want the Bostonian accent. All right, yeah, so that's been missing. Anyway, Mark Miller just came out and he said, I'm tired of these cancel pigs, that are abusive, et cetera, et cetera. Rob Liefeld just came out and basically said, hey, yeah, the discussion about, woke comics, it's real. It is a real thing because they kind of denied that it exists. They gaslight you over it, but it is real. They came after Rob Liefeld, and they spent at least 3 days tearing him down and talking about how he never accomplished anything.
Oh my God!
On his giant pile of money.
He mentioned when one of them tried to say that he didn't sell 8 million copies or something like that.
Oh yeah, did somebody deny that he sold that many books?
Yeah.
Like, he's exaggerating.
That's right. It was a grift. He's in with those comics skaters. His whole thing is money laundering.
Yeah.
There's no possible way he could have sold 8 million copies of the comics. The printing presses couldn't handle 8 million copies of comics back then. It's a historical lie. Now hold on a second. Liefeld deniers. It is true. He did actually sell 8 million copies of what was it? X-Force #1?
Was it X-Force or Youngblood? I think wasn't Youngblood bigger than X-Force?
It was no.
X-Force
No, I don't think Youngblood was.
Well, Jim Lee sold 8 million copies.
He sold
#1.
6.
I think Youngblood or I think X-Force
did 5.
3.
X-Force came with those trading cards, that polybagging trading cards.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was referring to.
Whatever, it was a wicked good
trading
fucking book
cards.
to sell. Sold a lot.
But it was still just one cover.
New Mutants too. Also, was it New Mutants 100 or something like that? That also sold quite a bit. But
Yeah, it was one cover, right, Andy? There was no variance to it.
Yeah, X-Force was just one cover. Yeah.
Well, that
Copies.
was a time period where you would just introduce a cool character or a great storyline, and that would propel demand for a comic book.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that's happening now. I mean, these guys, they're buying their comic variants, and they're just looking at them as speculators rather than actually reading the comics, which is not creating as much excitement as Marvel and DC may want. So, anyway, Rob Liefeld said, "Woke Twitter, woke comics is real. Woke comics Twitter, and it's to be avoided." Cancel Pigs took to X to pile on Rob Liefeld after he waded into the arguments over the comic industry. He made an innocuous point about woke comic book Twitter, seemingly talking about the controversy stirred by Mark Miller, who stalwartly defended a comic shop owner for his opinions on why the comic industry is dying. By the way, that's heroic. That would be...
Yes.
Mark Miller, actually, he writes the most evil villains, and he also behaves like a true hero in real life.
Interesting.
They were actually saying that, like some of these SJWs were saying, I knew Mark Miller was evil because Have you ever read his villains? They're fucking like, he writes the most disgusting, evil shit that his villains do. And he does, like, you know, I've been reading Mark Miller precisely for that reason, because I'm like, I can't believe he's going this far with his villains. Like, his villains are dangerous and scary. I think Robert Kirkman picked up a little something from him when he created Negan for the Walking Dead comic book.
Well, if you're going to write a villain, why not go all out, you know?
So, Canceled Pigs came after Rob Liefeld. All he did was he just said, look, hey, well, comic book Twitter is real. Rob Liefeld is one of the most popular comic creators of the last 3 decades, having created beloved characters like Deadpool, Cable, and to a much lesser extent, Evangeline. Why did they put this in here? Are they trolling? Evangeline?
He's actually bringing back Evangeline, and I'm going to do a variant cover, and he's going to do a she cover.
Oh, then maybe it's appropriate. I'm just like, that's a
little
blast from the
promotion.
past.
Yeah, little promotion going.
Yeah.
In his era, comics sold millions, but now they've dwindled to tens of thousands. If anyone knows what's going on in the comic industry and its communities, it's him. Liefeld also has a podcast where he covers different topics regarding comics, from comics history to business strategies. It's one of the best podcasts out there. This is not my endorsement of it. This is this article. I've never listened to. Has anybody listened to Rob's observations?
Yeah.
It's great. It's really good.
Regular basis, yeah.
Great. He gets you. He is so knowledgeable about the storylines he talks about, or any of the business stuff that he brings up and talks about. But his enthusiasm throughout the podcast just gets you pumped up to go, man, I got to do some comics right now. I got to draw some comics, or I got to create some comics. It's really good to listen to while you're working, because it just really gets the juices flowing.
He's always been like that.
And I like to watch each episode and try to guess, is he going to impersonate Todd McFarlane again? He does this impersonation of Todd every podcast he works in.
It's a lot of bitterness. However, he's not all ego and bombast. Liefeld has continually shown he has a sense of humor about his works. One of his most controversial pieces he's drawn is one of internet's memed as Cap Tits. Liefeld doesn't shy away from poking fun at his drawing. And by the way, they're real and they're spectacular. This is Rob tweeting this. How did he do this?
You mean
what? How much did that original art go for?
I remember that episode.
100,000.
Is Captain America smuggling a snack into the theater?
Seems like it.
He's getting a chest erection.
All right, let me see. With Mark Miller shining a light on the troubles in the industry, however, it seems like the Whisper Network inside World Comics Twitter is hunting for new targets to cancel anyone who appears to agree that there are problems with the industry is now being branded as alt-right.
Yeah, what the
allied with ComicsGate. Oh my God, guys, ally with us. We're right.
Yeah.
Who knew?
We're on the winning team, baby.
Who knew? Who knew?
Are you somebody who grew up reading comic books? You should know what a hero is, and you should recognize it in us. You know,
in us,
and we are real heroes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I look in the mirror, I'm just like, yes, this is everything I aspired to be. Heavier, you know, but absolutely heroic. Rob Liefeld's a classical liberal. Just because he's drawn beautiful women and men with muscles, he's often on the radar as a target of the cancel pigs crowd. Even though he agrees with much of their politics, it's never enough for them, as he found after posting a recent tweet. On X, he innocently commented, look, woke comic book Twitter is absolutely a thing. The sites, podcasts, and personalities, they all sing the same tune. I avoid them as much as possible, and they have zero solutions. Zero. I think Rob listens to me. Zeros, he says. They're zeros.
Could be.
Here is Aaron Myers, who's one of these wokesters on Twitter. I don't know what he does. These guys, like, I mean, all of these guys have real trouble paying their bills, but they all kind of come forward every now and then. Aaron's one of these guys who goes, I have found some Cyberfrog books, and I am now going to auction them, and the proceeds are going to a homosexual charity. And then he, like, everybody applauds, but he means himself. All of these people are homosexual charities. But you know what? It always raises a lot of money, and I always kind of go, "You're not learning yet. There's a demand for Cyberfrog, you idiot. There's no demand for." Why don't you try that with Ms. Marvel?
Makes it seem like he's doing a good deed for somebody. At the same time, he's just patting himself on the back.
That's right.
How great I am.
It violates show don't tell again.
Yeah.
Show don't tell. That's a rule for living. It's not just for writing stories. It means if you want to do good works, do them, but don't bring a camera crew along.
How is it a good work to sell Cyberfrog and give the donations to homosexual charities? Do you understand? Homosexual men have more money than anyone. And this is why. They don't have ladies in their pockets.
Or kids.
They don't have any kids. I am retarded. Aaron Myers says, the man whose biggest claim to fame is the character design he stole from George Perez. And it's probably the biggest reason the industry imploded in the late 90s would like you to know it's woke. That's the problem with comics. See how quick they turn on you?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter like what you actually did. Now, if Rob Liefeld were out there like, you know what, fuck Mark Miller and, fuck this retailer because his argument's stupid and woke is the best thing, blah, blah, blah. And everybody knows that everybody wants to buy woke comics. You know what they'd be saying? They'd be like, listen to the man who created Deadpool, you idiots. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the man who... Like, he actually had a substantial career. They'll turn on you in a dime. They will completely invalidate your entire existence the minute that you... It's the most childish thing.
Every day is opposite day for these people.
Every day is opposite.
And Myers' comment is saying that Rob sold so many fucking copies of comic books that the industry imploded.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah. And then their next tweet, the follow-up tweet is asking them to pay, send them money because they've got $30 in the bank.
Right.
The people that attack him.
Saying they have zero solutions admits that there's a comic industry problem, which the cancel pigs in the network won't allow. They immediately took to piling on Liefeld, one claiming Liefeld stole his work from George Perez. Among others, not just George, like he stole from everybody.
I like that these arguments never pertain to the subject. They just change the subject, they create a new argument, and then they go along with that. Like, this was never even on the table.
Right. Well, that's what they always do.
Yeah.
What do they do? What do they always do?
They change the subject. They don't stay on topic. They just got to, they veer around it. It's like with inflation. Oh, no, inflation's down.
Mm-hmm.
It might be down, but it's not where it was before dumbass got into office, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, they're like, you're a bigot, you're racist.
Trump gets into the conversation, and then you're racist, and
you're bigot, or
well, that's what they did to Glenn too. None of them mentioned anything he was saying. They just attacked him physically.
Yeah, him personally. Yeah.
Yep.
Another accused Liefeld and Miller of deflecting blame at the woke for the problems in the comic industry. It's not surprising that it's Rob Liefeld and Mark Miller deflecting blame at woke for a supposed decline in the industry. If this is how out of touch the pros are, then maybe they're right that the industry has 2 years at best before collapse. Well, they are right.
How does this guy know what Mark Miller has to say?
He doesn't know. He doesn't know
what Mark Miller said. Mark called me. I had a good conversation with Mark.
It's fucking Mong. He don't know a goddamn thing, Billy. He don't know what the fuck is going on in comics.
What the fuck?
Third Attack Liefeld.
They say fuck. They don't say fuck. It's like you're like Jersey in New York. We say fuck. They say fuck. Like fuck you. You fucking.
How do they say it?
Yeah, it is fuck. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Third
fucking Nebraska's gonna beat fucking Boston. No fucking way. Fucking Nebraska's gonna beat Boston.
It's
fucking
wicked.
Aaron,
it's wicked.
Fucking Aaron Lepresti.
Oh my god. All right, hold on. Third Attack Liefeld as having dumb views on diversity in comics, even though Liefeld has often voiced that he's fine with gay characters getting the spotlight. You know what? Now I'm against Rob Liefeld. Reminder that Rob Liefeld having incredibly dumb views about diversity in comics isn't new, and given these picks, he doesn't understand nor want to understand why there's an issue. Gatekeepers like him are the problem, not woke comic book Twitter.
How is he a gatekeeper? What are they talking about? gatekeeper. What? Because couldn't get into comics? It's Rob Liefeld's fault? No, if you can't get into comic books, it's because you suck.
And why do they always change the character's sexuality instead of like promoting characters that have been gay in comics, like in Authority? Do you guys remember the two guys in Authority?
Right.
And
or Jericho.
You know the Authority, Jimmy Reyes, but you don't know fucking Green Lantern. Green Arrow.
I just woke up. I was half asleep. What is it?
You don't fucking know?
You don't fucking know who fucking Green Arrow is? You know the Authority?
You talking about Robin Hood, who became
Robin Hood?
Yeah, he originally started as Robin Hood, and then he became Green Arrow.
Yeah. And he was Robin Hood's a great conservative hero. And
so
I had this conversation with Cully Hamner once. I was saying how Robin Hood's a conservative, and he's like, "What are you fucking crazy like that?" I'm like, "What do you mean? He's all for for arms, to be armed, and he's not robbing the rich to feed to feed the poor. He's robbing the government that they took the money from the poor." Robin Hood is one of the greatest conservative heroes of all time.
They
hit that bell. Hit that bell, Billy. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not saying anything anymore. I'll shut up.
No, they really, really hate that. For some reason, they see Robin Hood as their character. They really do. And when you bring up that that Robin Hood is actually a conservative, they get very upset, and he is. He is one. It's ridiculous. Why? Well, he's robbing from the government for overtaxing
from
the
the
people.
government, giving the people their money back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they see it as socialism. They see it as distributing wealth, but that's not what he's doing.
No, because he's not part of the government.
Right.
Dummies.
Thank you.
He's a vigilante.
He's a fucking vigilante. Like Daredevil. Daredevil's a good vigilante too. Punisher, Daredevil, fucking vigilantes.
Billy's going to be talking like this for at least another week.
Yeah.
I know.
Robin Hood.
How great is that illustration?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Pretty great.
Excellent, Ethan. When did you post this? Oh, geez, like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's the tweet. Robin Hood. He wasn't a liberal. He wasn't stealing from the rich to give to the poor. He was robbing the tax man to give their money back to the people who earned it. He was a Republican superhero. Okay. 668 likes, 137 retweets, and probably most
Don't
of them
forget
are
I'm a
hate
commie.
retweets, and then 113 people commenting.
That's a lot. That's a ratio.
And they're like
When that
mostly bad. Like, look at this craziness. This goes on and on. I don't get this many comments ordinarily. Somebody just said, nope. And I said, I'm sorry, yes. And that's actually true. I'm sorry, yes, is true.
Yeah.
Because I'm a creative person, and if I say so, then it is so. I can do a Robin Hood book.
I don't know why people had conflict with me. I don't understand, personally. Doesn't make sense.
Because the truth hurts.
Oh, they get so mad about. I'm sorry,
their
but no.
fantasy. That's what.
Yeah.
Well, do you see that one guy said that you had your take on history was terrible or something? It's like, dude, this is fiction. There is no Robin Hood.
That's been real.
Right.
My favorite is where the guy just
thinks Wakanda is a real place, right?
Forever.
I like the one where the guy just completely shut down. He's like, nope. It just
Yeah. Nope. Wrong answer. Wrong, Van Skyver. Wrong. Fuck you, Ethan Van Skyver. Fuck you. Fuck you. All right.
Would be you.
I love it. All right. So everybody's mad at Rob. Fortunately, Rob only received so much heat that he deleted the tweet. Rob just doesn't want the conflict here. That's not what he wants. You know, he doesn't want to be a
They're not
culture war.
important to him. He doesn't give a shit,
Yeah.
what I would assume.
But it is true. No one is pure enough for the cancel pigs inquisition, and these angry tweets illustrate Rob Liefeld's point that they're all singing the same tune and should be avoided as much as possible. Where's that bell? Bing. Perfect. Yes, indeed, my friends.
Indeed.